And it's because I don't believe that Mr. Crumbley was assessed 15 points for OV-19 for the same reason as Mrs. Crumbley was. Mr. Crumbley was assessed 15 points for, it says in the guidelines, the offender used the force or the threat of force against another person or the property of another person to interfere with, attempt to interfere with, or that results in the interference with the administration of justice or the rendering of emergency services. Your Honor, I read that scoring to be scored because of the claims made by Ms. McDonald's office that Mr. Crumbley has made threats and threats of physical harm to Ms. McDonald over the phone at the jail. Your Honor, I'm disputing, and I have disputed, I did it during the trial when this was originally raised, and I've done it since then, that Mr. Crumbley has ever made a physical threat against Prosecutor McDonald. He has vented, he has been angry for the reasons that I cited in my sentencing memorandum, but he has never threatened to physically harm Ms. McDonald. He has never said that if you continue with this prosecution, I'm going to hurt you. He has never said, if you don't stop this right now, I'm coming after you. Instead, as I indicated in my sentencing memorandum, the statements made by Mr. Crumbley, although there has been some language that may not be very respectful, that may be angry out of frustration for being incarcerated and on lockdown for 23 hours a day for the last 2.5 years, for something that Mr. Crumbley and I maintain that he did not do illegally or wrong. But he vented his frustrations, Your Honor, and he never threatened harm. He never said if Ms. McDonald continues that he's going to do something, or Mr. Keast, or Mr. Williams, or anyone else at the prosecutor's office or law enforcement. So he scores 15 points, presumably based on these claims of threatened physical harm against Ms. McDonald, which we dispute ever happened. Mr. Crumbley and I maintained that OV-19 should be scored at 0. Again, we also dispute that he was ever fleeing, so even if the prosecution wanted to change their theory to the flight, we would dispute that he was even fleeing, although I understand what the court just indicated and what Mr. Keast has indicated previously. So for the purposes of scoring, OV-19 should be scored at 0. There have been no threats of physical harm. There have been no interference with the administration of justice.
There is a thumb drive of the threats. We could play them, or Mr. Keast could read them into the record. I don't know to what extent the prosecution would like to address.
I do. I hope not to, Judge, but I do need to respond to the argument. I'm not going to read all of them. They're on page 4 of our sentencing memorandum. And we did attach them as the court indicated, so I know the court has listened. OV-19 should be scored at 50 points if the offender used force or the threat of force against a person to interfere with or attempt to interfere with the administration of justice. I don't know any other purpose for what James Crumbley did other than to interfere with the administration of justice. He knew specifically that his jail calls were recorded. He knew, or at least he believed, that the elected official, Ms. McDonald, was listening to him because he sent a message specific to her. He did it not just in an abstract sense, Judge. He did it while she was actively prosecuting the case. I have had a number of instances where defendants threatened witnesses. Rarely do we see a defendant threatening the prosecutor, let alone a member of a trial team, let alone the elected official. There will be retribution. She's going to be fucking sucking on a fucking hot rock down in hell soon. I am fucking on a rampage, Karen. Yes, Karen McDonald, your ass is going down, and you better be fucking scared. I didn't want to read that, Judge. That was just a few weeks before the trial. I don't know any other definition what that could be other than a specific threat made to a member of the trial team. We ask that this defendant be treated no differently than any other defendant who would make a similar statement to any prosecutor or defense attorney or judge in this building. OV-19 is certainly scored at 15 points.
I believe